Hi, everyone. I just wanted to talk about topics that are getting fact checked on social media. For me, I've noticed it on YouTube, but I'm sure there are other social media platforms that are also doing the same thing. So I just wanted to go through a list of topics that I've noticed that are getting fact checked or on YouTube. They'll put what they call an information panel to explain. It's like they're explaining the official narrative of whatever the topic is that's on the video where the information panel is. So I've got a list of 11 topics that normally get fact checked, and I just wanted to go through them and explain why they're getting fact checked. So at number one, I've got white genocide, which is also sometimes linked to the what's called the replacement theory, also known as the Kalergi plan. So I think some of you you saw that or know that Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the president of South Africa, visited the United States and he went to the White House and had a meeting with Donald Trump, uh, and there was some other government officials there like J.D. Vance, who is the vice president, and some other people who are quite high up in the American government, and Trump mentioned the issue of white South Africans being murdered, specifically the farmers. And uh, in the clips that I've seen, I noticed that Cyril Ramaphosa tried to play it down, basically to say that crime is affecting everyone in South Africa, whether they are white or black or Indian or whatever. Yeah, that's true. There is a lot of crime in South Africa. I know quite a lot about South Africa because South Africa has a border with Zimbabwe, and I'm in Zimbabwe. I've been in Zimbabwe permanently for over 4 years now, for over 4 years since coming back from the UK. So I do see quite a lot of videos from different channels, especially on YouTube and elsewhere, talking about what's happening in South Africa. Um, there's also a TV show called The View, where they tried to play down or even try to say that Trump is lying, that there's a white genocide going on in South Africa. I know that for a fact. In fact, there's what's called there's a plan in South Africa to seize farms from white farmers, and there's what they call expropriation without compensation. That's where the South African government wants to seize farmland without paying the white farmers. Similar to what happened in Zimbabwe here. I think it started in the year 2000 where farms were taken. So anyway, why I'm explaining all this is just in case maybe some of you don't know, but it's on YouTube specifically. There might be other platforms that do the same thing. They are trying to fact check this and say that it's not true. Well, it is actually true that a lot of white farmers are being murdered, and obviously there's an agenda there to murder white farmers and create so much terror so that maybe some of the white farmers will just hand over their farms, but um, this is definitely happening. It's not, it like didn't start happening this year in 2025. It's been happening, I think, for over a decade, that there's been a lot of crime involving and murders involving white farmers. Not to say that blacks are not being affected by crime, but they are being affected by crime. So what I've noticed is it's 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 things like that are being fact checked on YouTube. Now the question is, why are they fact checking it? Because actually what's happening in South Africa is not isolated to South Africa alone. South Africa produces a lot of food actually, and here in Zimbabwe we get some of our food from South Africa. Zimbabwe produces quite a lot of food, but not at the same capacity as when it's not like the same way it was before the farm seizures that took place here in Zimbabwe. So if you look at food producing countries around the world, a lot of them are being affected, including America. There's been a lot of food producing plants that have been burnt down in America, and also in the Netherlands. The previous government that was there wanted to take farmland away from from the farmers to build homes for immigrants. And then in the UK, they're passing, I think they either have passed a law or will pass a law that will stop farmers passing down their land to their children or their grandchildren. So there's all this going on, and it affects a lot of countries that produce a lot of food, because what you have to bear in mind is that we're going towards this is part of the what's called the Great Reset, basically, and it's all linked to climate change and even the scamdemic as well. That it's all about controlling human populations. We are going towards the future that we're heading into will be a future where we are supposed to be dependent on the state. That you are not supposed to be self-sufficient. You have to be dependent on the state, because there's new money coming, which is called the CBDC, and we're not supposed to be in control of our own lives. We're supposed to depend on the system, in other words. So the issue of white genocide is definitely happening. Like I said, it's also known as the replacement theory, which is why we are seeing so much mass immigration happening, whether it be in Ireland or even in the United States itself. When Joe Biden was there, the fake Joe Biden was there. I don't believe that was really Joe Biden. That was a fake Joe Biden, and some even go as far as claiming that Joe Biden was also fake. But what I know is that the Joe Biden that was there was definitely not the real Joe Biden, because they were completely different people. Just to explain the replacement theory a bit more, it's basically a theory that countries with large white populations, Caucasian populations, there's an agenda to replace whites in their own countries with immigrants. I mean, this is definitely happening whether it be in France, in Italy, and in the islands around Italy, in the UK, and even, like as I already mentioned, in America. There's been a lot of illegal mass immigration, especially from immigrants that are coming from countries that are mostly Roman Catholic. There's obviously an agenda there, because when those illegal immigrants then go to a country that is supposed to be Protestant, they then vote for a Roman Catholic, who will then implement policies that favor the Catholic Church. That's the agenda. And in fact, there's I think most of you know there was a man called Samuel Morse. This is where he's the one who invented the Morse code. Now, actually, what's not really known that much about Samuel Morse is that he wrote some books. I know of 2 books that he wrote, and one of them was basically where he was warning about immigration, how immigration would be used as a political weapon against the United States. I think it's called The Foreign Conspiracy Against the United States, by Samuel Morse. You can get that. I think you can even download it as a PDF. So that white genocide, or the replacement theory, or the Kalergi plan. Kalergi was basically a man who actually, some of these things that are written, and sometimes they're even written as books. They're actually more like I forget the word now, what it's called, but it's basically those books sometimes are taken and used to actually implement the very things. It's not just a book. Like if you look at a book like 1984, some of the things that were written in the book 1984 are actually being implemented. Or if you look at the book, what's the name of the book now? A Brave New World. By one of the Huxley brothers. Some of those things, the word I was looking for was a blueprint. It's actually then used as a blueprint to implement the very things that are written in books that we sometimes read thinking, oh, this is just fiction, but it actually gets implemented. So just moving on to the second one, white genocide or white replacement. Was the first one that I wanted to mention. The second one is the moon landing hoax. The moon landing was definitely a hoax. I mean, if you still believe that, then I suggest you haven't done enough research, because even up to now in 2025, I don't believe that anyone has been to the moon, because we're supposed to believe that the Americans, went to the moon on the first try. Yet, if you look at the videos of them when they were trying out the equipment, all the equipment failed. So that was definitely a hoax. Now, there's a good book written by Bart Sibrel, where he says it's called Moon Man, Moon Man by Bart Sibrel. You can also get that on Amazon. I've read that book, and it says that the moon landing was fake. Basically, they recorded the whole thing in an airplane hangar, in a military hangar in Texas. There were actually two hangars that were joined together, and they basically took concrete which was crushed, and that was basically what we see as the surface of the moon on the videos. So the moon landing was definitely faked. That's why now they're not claiming that they can go to the moon now. We always hear that they want to go to Mars and all this stuff. It's not going to happen because it's all fiction. So that's the moon landing. If anyone makes a video talking about the moon landing and saying that it was a hoax, you find that under the video there'll be that information panel that I spoke about, where they'll try and basically get the viewers to read the informational panel, so that basically try to debunk whatever is being said in the video. Especially, I'm talking about those who are going against the in quotes official narrative. Let's say about the moon landing, which was supposed to have happened in 1969, and were made to believe that Richard Nixon, who was president at the time, phoned the so-called astronauts who were on the moon on a landline phone. I mean, that's just a joke. So those two things I mentioned so far, you'll find that they are normally fact-checked on YouTube. Maybe on Facebook and other platforms they do the same thing, but I normally use YouTube as well as BitChute and Rumble. Those are the main three video sharing platforms that I use. So the next one is the flat Earth. Now I've already done videos talking about the fact that we don't live on a spinning ball Earth. That's Roman Catholic propaganda. It's fake. So we live basically on a flat disk. That's what God created. It's static. It does not move. It is the sun and the moon and the stars that move. So if someone makes a video talking about the flat Earth, they will get an information panel under their video. Next one I want to talk about is JFK assassination. Now the official story about what actually happened in Dealey Plaza when JFK was assassinated is basically a joke. It's they say that Lee Harvey Oswald, who by the way worked for the CIA, excuse me, they say that Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone assassin. Have you noticed that there are so many either assassination or terrorist attacks where it said that someone was acting alone? Another one is John Wilkes Booth, who they say acted alone when he assassinated Abe Lincoln. John Wilkes Booth actually was part of a secret society known as the Knights of the Golden Circle, which then evolved into the Ku Klux Klan, known as the KKK. Now, I spoke about this in my video where I spoke about how the world is how the world really works and how it's ruled through secret societies. I spoke about that. So, I was talking about the JFK assassination, and I was just explaining that the official narrative is basically is garbage, it's baloney. JFK was assassinated through a conspiracy. This is something that they don't want the public to know, even though it's been more than 50 years now since that happened. Because once you know that there was a conspiracy, then you will know that maybe some of the individuals, the people that were involved in the assassination of JFK might even be alive. We now know that one of them was George Bush Sr. He was definitely involved in that, and he went on to become the head of the CIA, the director of the CIA, and then later on he became president. So sometimes they're actually rewarded for doing such stuff. So the JFK assassination is another one that you get that will get fact checked on YouTube, and the reason is because they are trying to cover the fact that JFK was assassinated by his own government. Because even things that you can see if you go on YouTube and look up the JFK assassination, you notice that JFK didn't have any security on that day. There were supposed to be members of the Secret Service standing on the sides of the car. There were actually little platforms that they were supposed to stand on, but they were actually told to back down. And also the route that he took was different from the route that he was supposed to have taken. They slowed the car down so that he could be shot, and he was shot from the front. He may have been shot from different angles other than the front, but he was also the final shot that hit him in the head definitely was came from the front. Whereas they tell us that Lee Harvey Oswald was in the book depository building behind JFK. So yeah, that's nonsense. Basically, the reason for the assassination, I might make another video, maybe going into a lot more detail than I'm going to go into just now. JFK was assassinated for about 3 or 4 main reasons. First of all, he wanted to de-escalate or didn't want to get involved in the war in Vietnam, so he didn't want war, which obviously went against the what President Eisenhower termed the military-industrial complex. JFK didn't want war. And he also basically, second reason, he also started printing his own government money, which went against the money that was being printed by the Federal Reserve. And if for those maybe who haven't watched my other videos, I explained that the Federal Reserve is basically a privately owned bank. It's not a government-owned bank. The name basically, where they call it the Federal Reserve, it was that term was coined to fool Americans into thinking that it was a government bank, but it's not. It's privately owned by the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Morgans. Okay, so another reason, third reason, was that JFK had said that he was going to shatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and throw the pieces into the wind, something along those lines. But he wanted to shatter the CIA, and some of that was because of the Bay of Pigs fiasco. Please look up some of this stuff. I can't go into too much detail right now because I've got some other stuff I wanted to talk about. Yeah, so those are the 3 reasons I can think of right now why JFK was assassinated. And LBJ, who became president after him, Lyndon Baines Johnson, was part of the plot to assassinate JFK, as well as some rich merchants, and also those in the military wanted him gone. It made a lot of enemies, as well as the mafia, by the way. So another topic that is often fact checked on YouTube is on social media in general is the truth about the Martin Luther King assassinated. Now, this doesn't mean that these individuals that I'm talking about having been assassinated doesn't necessarily mean that I support or believe that they were good men or good women. I'm just telling you the truth about what happened in some of these topics that I'm talking about. So Martin, if someone makes a video saying that Martin Luther King wasn't assassinated by whoever that person was, who they say assassinated him, the video will get fact checked. So in fact, it's known that Martin Luther King didn't die from the bullet that struck him. He was actually suffocated in hospital because he was still alive. There's some men that went and basically told all the nurses to go out, and they suffocated him because he hadn't died yet. And I've actually, just before I move into the next one, I've actually seen a photo of Martin Luther King being given an award by Jesuits. So I don't believe that Martin Luther King was necessarily a good person. I've heard a lot of things that he was also associated with with American communists as well. So he may have done and said some good things, yes, but he wasn't an angel. I've also heard that he had extramarital affairs as well. So next one is the sinking of the Titanic. If you give a different view, someone makes a video talking about, giving a different perspective, saying something different other than what is said in the official narrative, the video on YouTube, in other places, will get. I'm talking about platforms that are actually controlled, because YouTube is actually owned by Google, for those that didn't know that. So remember that something actually very important before I move on, before I say anything more, is we were in what's called an information war, or info war. So they say that knowledge is power, so information is part of knowledge, and they don't want the public to know certain things, because when you know certain things, then you won't go along with the official agenda, so sinking of the Titanic is another one that gets an information panel on it on YouTube. The official story is that the Titanic sank because it struck an iceberg and it was an accident. Well, yeah. I'll make another video talking about why the Titanic was sunk. Basically, the richest people in the world were on the Titanic when it sank, including the three richest men: Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidor Straus, and third one who I forget right now. I might come back to it. But yeah, they were on that ship when it got sunk, and those three men and the other rich people that were on that ship were opposed to the setting up of a central bank, which we know today is the Federal Reserve, which was set up in 1913. Remember that the Titanic sank in 1912, and the Federal Reserve was set up in December 1913, after 7 men met in secret on an island called Jekyll Island to iron out how they were going to establish a central bank in America. Yeah, so yeah, I'll definitely do a video on that some other time. I have done a video which I haven't uploaded yet, talking about one of the men who was Paul Warburg. That's who I wanted to mention. Paul Warburg is known as the father of the Federal Reserve. He was one of the men who was involved in the setting up of the Federal Reserve. So I've already done a video about that, where I talk about lying fathers, because he was a liar and he basically deceived the Americans. But I haven't uploaded that video yet. I will upload it soon. But with regards to the Titanic specifically, I'll make another video talking about the Titanic and what really happened. So the Titanic is another one they try and fact check because they don't want you to know the truth. So another one is the Charlie Victor Polk. It's anyone who gives a different view, makes a video talking, saying something different to what the official narrative is, will get a fact check. Or in fact, the video will get blocked or removed. I actually have personal experience of that on YouTube. So the number 9, the 9/11 attacks, which I've spoken about in passing in some of my other videos, where that will also get fact checked as well. We'll have an informational panel under the video on YouTube, saying that the official narrative is this. There's a conspiracy theory that says this happened, but that's not how it happened. And actually, just for those maybe who don't know, the phrase conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorist was coined by the CIA after the JFK assassination, because most Americans, it's believed that over 50% of Americans, even at the time, did not believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone or was the lone assassin. That there was definitely a conspiracy to assassinate JFK. The CIA then came up with this phrase, which a lot of people use without even knowing the background of where that came from. They'll start calling those who don't believe the official narrative of, I'm talking about major world events, they tend to be called conspiracy theorists or conspiracy theorists, and that what they are saying is a conspiracy theory. But actually, conspiracy basically conspiracies happen actually almost every day. A conspiracy is where 2 or more people meet together to plan an evil deed, basically. And even in the Holy Scriptures we have that. We have kings that were assassinated, including Saul's son, who became king when Saul died. He was also assassinated as well, and there were 2 men that basically cut off his head. That was a conspiracy. There are many conspiracies in God's word. So even today we have conspiracies, and what we have to remember is that even in heaven there was a conspiracy when Lucifer tried to overthrow God and his son, to take over basically heaven with these evil angels. That was a conspiracy, because what the devil did is that he went around lying to the angels that God was bad, God was a tyrant, and would be better off if we did things this way. So the fact that the devil is not dead, he's still around, he's still basically following the same modus operandi, the same way of doing things. Basically, that's why we see that there are conspiracies happening almost every day, and the conspiracies are actually covered up by use of mainstream media. That's why I don't watch TV, because TV is propaganda. So yeah, 9/11 is another one they're trying to debunk, but yeah. The official story doesn't make sense anyway, because they tell us that Osama bin Laden, who was actually a CIA agent, and his CIA name was Tim Osman, they say that Osama bin Laden planned 9/11 from a cave in Afghanistan. Now, if you still believe that, if you actually believe that, then I've got title deeds to the moon, and I'm selling the moon. Maybe you'd like to buy that off me. Number 10, we've got the Oklahoma city bombing. If someone makes a video saying something different from the official narrative, they'll also get that information panel saying what the official narrative is, what really happened, and that any other story other than what the government says is not true. It's a conspiracy theory. That's something else that they try and fact check. So the official story is that Timothy McVeigh, who used to be in the army or in the military in America, and his friend Terry Nichols, that basically they bombed the Alfred P. Murrah building in Oklahoma in America, and that's what caused the devastation and the death. But actually, right now, I'm reading a book called sorry, it's kind of just gone blank a bit, but it's written by someone called Cody Snodgrass. I think it's called Looking for the Light or something like that. Choosing the Light, sorry. The book is called Choosing the Light. Yeah, I'll repeat that again. It's called Choosing the Light. And I said it's written by Cody, but Cody is actually kind of like his nickname. I think it's Robert Cody Snodgrass. Where he actually Cody says that he was actually offered $1 million to blow up the Oklahoma this building in Oklahoma, the Alfred P. Murrah building, because Cody actually used to work for the CIA, and he was offered this money to blow up this building because there were some documents in that building that they wanted to destroy, and also there was some anti-terror laws that were going through Congress, which were being voted down. And remember that Bill Clinton was president in America at that time. So, in fact, Cody, who wrote that book that I've just mentioned, believed that they wanted to set him up, and then they were going to, if he had gone ahead and accepted the money and blown that building up, they would have said that. They would have set him up and said that he was the only one who had planned that. He believes that that's what happened to Timothy McVeigh. Timothy McVeigh was also offered money, and then happened to be in the vicinity. May have had some bombs in a Ryder truck that blew up at they were actually bombs inside the building. There were many witnesses who were then assassinated, so that they wouldn't talk about the truth about what really happened in the Oklahoma City bombing. The same as what happened after 9/11. The same as what happened after the JFK assassination. That witnesses were murdered by agents of the CIA. So yeah, so the Oklahoma City bombing also gets fact checked as well, especially when you say something different to the official narrative. The last one, which is number 11, I would like to talk about is the Sandy Hook shootings. Now, there's a lot of people have come out and said that actually nothing happened, on the day that they say there were shootings at that school. In fact, that school had actually been damaged by a storm. It was not being used. In fact, that there have been Americans who have checked whether there was any internet traffic, because nowadays schools have computers, isn't it, which have access to the internet. There was no internet traffic happening or at that school, because the school was actually closed because it had been damaged. So there's a man who actually wrote a book called Nobody Died at Sandy Hook, and you can actually get that book as a PDF. Now, this man had, I forget his name. I think it's I forget his name. Sorry. But if you look for that book and you type in "Nobody Died at Sandy Hook" and you look for it as a PDF, or if you want to buy an actual physical copy, you can get it. He had actually put that book on Amazon, and it was getting there were a lot of copies of the book being sold, but within a short time the book was removed from Amazon. But you can get the book as a PDF. Now, yeah. So why, if Sandy Hook didn't really happen the way they say it did, what really happened? What really happened is that it's believed that there was a drill. Remember that at the time when that happened, Barack Obama was the president, and remember that there's an agenda to take away guns from Americans. So they want to make it look like guns are bad. So they made this. It's said allegedly that they conducted this drill to make it look like kids have been shot in a school. And in fact, Sandy Hook is not the only incident where this happened, where actually it said that something happened when it didn't. There have been other so-called school shootings where they say that kids were killed or injured because someone went into a school with a gun and shot them up. But there are some who believe that there's an agenda to take away guns from Americans, make guns look bad so you can take them away. So that way Americans can't defend themselves as America is being pulled along to be part of the New World Order. It's said that before Mao Zedong murdered the Chinese, he disarmed them first, and so did Stalin, and so did Hitler, and possibly Pol Pot, I think. A lot of countries where there've been genocide, the citizens have been disarmed first before that happened. So those are the topics that get fact checked. I'm sure there are others that I might have missed out, but these are the ones that I could think of that get fact checked, because they don't want you to know the truth. Because when you know some of this stuff, it kind of frees you, and you understand that even things that are coming in the future are basically a hoax and false, including climate change. I think climate change actually would be my 12th one. If someone makes a video, I hadn't written it down here actually, but yeah, just remember that climate change is another one that gets fact checked as well on social media. If you say that climate change is a hoax, that it's false, that there's a hidden agenda behind it, that it's all about controlling human beings, then you'll get fact checked as well. So those are the 12 topics that get fact checked. Don't be deceived. Remember that the devil's modus operandi is deception. In other words, when I say modus operandi, I'm saying the way in which he works is that he works through deception. That's how he also got a third of the angels to be deceived. So yeah, just watch out for that.